wants to see you fall, but some are just waiting for your guard to drop. There are eyes that pretend to care, but secretly watch for your collapse. There are innocent-sounding questions laced with dark intent. When you begin to sense this shift, fear no longer controls you. But that's exactly when they become most dangerous. Evil doesn't expose itself through actions. It reveals itself in the reaction when you uncover the truth. You don't need to catch them in the act. The moment you see through the mask and start pulling away, the mask begins to crack. Then come the strange behaviors, emotional tension, and manipulative storms, not to make amends, but to pull you back under control. Your awareness is the greatest threat to them, and they'll do everything they can to drag you back into the fog. They don't need to attack you outright, they just make you question yourself. They don't expose you publicly, they plant subtle seeds of doubt in others. What they want isn't justice, but confusion, so they can keep manipulating from the shadows. In your journey to protect your inner peace and develop unshakable mental clarity, as taught by the timeless wisdom of Stoic philosophy, there's one crucial skill you must master: spotting the silent, destructive behaviors people display once they realize you've uncovered their true nature. Because when you withdraw quietly, they don't see it as a boundary. They see it as a threat. And what follows is not remorse, it's retaliation. Not with fists, but with subtle psychological weapons aimed at your self-trust, your reputation, and your inner calm. In this video, we'll uncover the 8 most disturbing behaviors that toxic individuals display when they know that you know. And more importantly, you'll learn how to respond with stoic strength, emotional control, and a mindset too clear to manipulate. Let's begin this journey of exposing the darkness, not with fear, but with the fierce light of self-awareness. 1. They give you strange vibrations to manipulate your emotions. You walk into a room. Nothing has been said yet, no words, no gestures, but something feels off. Your instincts tingle, your skin tightens, and deep inside your chest, there's a quiet pressure you can't explain. That, right there, is not paranoia. It's not your imagination. It's vibration. And when you're dealing with a truly malicious person, especially one who knows that you've seen through their mask, those vibrations become their weapon. Evil doesn't always shout. It doesn't always act in overtly violent or confrontational ways. Often, it whispers. It lingers in the silence between glances, in the carefully calculated pauses of a sentence, in the fake warmth of a smile that no longer feels real. When someone with harmful intent realizes you've recognized them for who they truly are, they begin to shift, not by confessing or backing away, but by changing the energy they bring into your space. The smile that once felt comforting now makes your stomach turn. The conversations that used to feel natural are suddenly full of loaded questions, veiled jabs, and prying inquiries that feel like psychological surveillance. It's subtle, just enough to make you question your own judgment. That's the point. They're not trying to hurt you with force. They're trying to unsettle you, to shake your emotional ground, to confuse you until you retreat, shrink back, and stop trusting your own perceptions. This is what makes it so dangerous. These strange vibrations are not accidents. They are carefully deployed strategies, tools of control disguised as emotional noise. You start asking yourself, am I overthinking this? Am I just being sensitive? But your body knows the truth. Your soul feels the distortion. even if your mind is still trying to reason through it. This is how they win, not by overpowering you, but by making you doubt yourself. I've been there myself. I once worked closely with a colleague who I trusted, someone who always appeared supportive and calm. But over time, I started noticing the shift. Whenever I voiced an idea, he would pause too long, smile too wide, or tilt his head with a look that wasn't curiosity, it was calculation. Then came the questions that didn't belong. Do you think you're ready for this project? Are you sure that's how it happened? At first, I brushed it off as office pressure. But the more I paid attention, the clearer it became. He wasn't just doubting me, he was undermining me. Quietly, skillfully, and it all started when he realized I no longer admired him. Instead of confronting me, he began probing me. He would linger near my desk, ask oddly specific things about my schedule, and once even mentioned a private conversation I'd had, one I hadn't shared with anyone. He was watching, waiting, testing my reactions. The energy in the room when he entered was no longer neutral, it became oppressive. Like a fog I had to breathe through. At night, I would lie awake, not because of what he did, but because of what he made me feel about myself. But Stoic philosophy gave me an anchor in that chaos. Epictetus once said, "We are not disturbed by events, but by our interpretation of them." The vibration, the strange emotional pressure, wasn't the threat. My reaction to it was. Once I understood that, everything changed. I stopped trying to decode his motives. I stopped reacting altogether. I focused on staying centered, composed, and fully aligned with my truth. I became so emotionally still that his energy had nowhere to land. Like a storm that couldn't find a place to crash, he lost his power over me. When you face someone who uses emotional frequencies as weapons, your calm is your defense. They thrive on reaction, on the tiny cracks they can widen with suggestion and subtle guilt. But if you give them no entry point, if you meet their storm with your silence and grounded presence, they will begin to lose control. Their game only works when you play it, refuse to engage, and you take back the power. Let this be your reminder. The human soul is an instrument more sensitive than any radar. When it picks up on something wrong, honor it. Trust that quiet knowing inside you. You don't need proof to validate your perception. The energy they emit is already a confession. And as Marcus Aurelius taught, the tranquility that comes when you stop caring what they say, what they do, or what they think, that's strength. Strange vibrations are not just sensations, they're signals, warnings, lessons. They are not meant to scare you, but to guide you. Use them not as a reason to panic, but as a reason to strengthen your awareness. Ground yourself deeper, stand firmer, and when the air feels heavy with unspoken manipulation, let your silence speak louder than any words. Because sometimes, the most powerful response to darkness is stillness. 2. They lie to cover up past lies. Lies are never told in isolation. One lie always demands another to survive. And before long, a single act of dishonesty becomes an intricate web of deception. But what truly reveals someone's character is what they do when that first lie is uncovered. Evil people don't apologize. They don't come clean. They double down. They rewrite the past. They spin new tales not to correct the narrative but to deepen the illusion, and to keep you tangled in it. When a malicious person realizes you've caught them in a lie, they don't flinch. Instead, they get creative. They don't see the exposure as a moment of reflection. They see it as a threat to their control. And to protect that control, they begin crafting an entirely new story, a distraction, a cover, a diversion. They might act surprised, feign confusion, or worse, pretend to be the victim. Anything to shift your focus away from the truth and back onto your own doubt. This is not just lying. This is warfare by distortion. And if you're not prepared, you might find yourself questioning your own memories, your own judgment, even your own sanity. That's the real damage, not the original lie, but the chain of dishonesty that follows, the manipulation of your mind. And it works because evil people don't just deceive others. They deceive themselves. They convince themselves their lies are justified, necessary, even noble. And once that belief takes hold, their lies never stop. They mutate, multiply, and become the new version of truth they cling to at all costs. There was a time in my life when I lent money to someone I considered a close friend. He told me a heartfelt story about financial trouble, hardship, and needing support. His eyes were full of desperation, and my heart responded. I didn't question his motives, because why would I? That's what trust looks like. Or at least, I thought it did. Weeks later, I learned he hadn't used the money for survival, but for indulgence, for show, for selfish comfort. And when I confronted him, I expected guilt, or at least honesty. What I got was another story, a twisted explanation involving others, unforeseen emergencies, and justifications that didn't add up. He didn't just lie. He made me feel guilty for asking. He weaponized my compassion against me. That moment opened my eyes to something Stoicism has always warned us about. That deception corrodes more than relationships. It erodes our connection to truth itself. As Epictetus said, man cannot learn what he thinks he already knows. And someone who lives in constant deception can no longer see reality. They only see the version of it that suits their narrative. But the real tragedy? The deeper they lie, the further they drift, not just from others, but from themselves. Because truth isn't just something external. It's a compass, a foundation, and when that's lost, everything built on it eventually collapses. Evil people know this, but instead of correcting course, they keep running, adding layer upon layer of fabrication, not realizing they are burying themselves. You might wonder, what do you do when someone continues lying? Even when caught, you stay calm. You stop trying to argue with illusion. You stop chasing explanations. Instead, you hold tightly to what you know is true. You don't need a confession to validate your reality. Their refusal to admit the truth is already an admission in itself. In moments like these, Stoic wisdom becomes your armor. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, if someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth, by which no one was ever truly harmed. But the key lies in that willingness to face the truth. Evil people don't seek it. They fear it, because truth demands accountability. It demands self-awareness. And those who build their lives on lies are terrified of what lies beneath the mask they wear. Don't expect closure from liars. Don't wait for the day they wake up and suddenly own their actions. That day rarely comes. What you can do is step out of their web. Stop feeding their narrative with your energy. Stop participating in the emotional chaos they create. Let their lies unravel on their own, because eventually, they always do. Remember this. Truth has a weight, a gravity, no matter how high the lies are stacked, no matter how many layers are added. Truth has a way of pulling everything back down. It doesn't need force. It just needs time and clarity. Your clarity. And once you reclaim your clarity, you reclaim your peace. Lies lose their grip on you. Their manipulation loses its power. Because when you choose to live by truth, you become unshakable. The more they lie, the more transparent they become. And that is your greatest advantage, not revenge, not anger, but a calm, unmovable trust in the truth you carry. Let that be your compass. Let their lies expose themselves. And walk forward, not looking back, not waiting for them to change, but knowing that you already have. 3. They only show up when they need something from you. You know the type. They disappear when your world falls apart but reappear with perfect timing when they need a favor, a connection, or a helping hand. They don't just knock on your door, they knock on your kindness. These people don't maintain relationships, they manage opportunities. And to them, you are one. At first, it feels like they genuinely care. They check in with kind words, offer their time, maybe even appear helpful when the stakes are low. But when life tests you, when you're struggling, grieving, or just need someone to lean on, they vanish. Your phone stays silent, your messages go unread, and just when you've picked yourself up and moved forward without them, they return with an apology, a smile, and a story, not because they missed you, but because they miss what you offer them. They're experts at weaving excuses. I didn't want to burden you. I was going through something. Or the classic, I didn't know you needed me. It all sounds convincing, almost believable, but look closer. Their presence always seems to align with moments where they can gain something, a favor, validation, your energy, your forgiveness. And when you no longer serve that purpose, they retreat again, leaving behind a silence heavier than before. I once had a colleague who fit this pattern perfectly. In every group project, he was charismatic, collaborative, and always offering a hand until things got tough. When deadlines loomed and tension rose, he disappeared. When we faced setbacks, he stayed quiet, refusing to take any blame. Yet once success returned, once recognition was on the table, there he was again, eager to be involved, to claim his share of credit. It wasn't about teamwork, it was about leverage. The truth is, people like this don't value connection, they value access. Your life becomes a revolving door they walk through whenever it's convenient. You become a pit stop on their journey, a place to refuel their ego, ease their burdens, or gain advantage. But the moment your tank runs dry or your loyalty demands reciprocation, they're gone again, chasing the next opportunity. This behavior isn't always easy to spot, especially if you're someone who gives freely. Your heart wants to believe the best in others. You hope their absence was unintentional, their silence just circumstantial. And when they return with a soft voice and regret in their eyes, you hesitate, you want to forgive, you want to believe. But Stoic philosophy offers a powerful perspective in these moments. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." That statement isn't just a call to virtue. It's a boundary. It means choosing to be grounded in principle, even when others are not. It means understanding that not everyone who leaves your life is a loss. Sometimes it's a form of liberation. Because when someone shows you they only value you when it's convenient, believe them. That is not a relationship, it's a transaction. And you deserve more than that. You deserve presence, not performance. You deserve loyalty that shows up not just in the easy moments but especially in the hard ones. You deserve people who stay. When I finally stopped making space for those who only knocked when they needed something, I found peace, not because I was surrounded by more people, but because I was surrounded by fewer, the right ones. Those who didn't flinch when I was hurting. Those who didn't disappear when I was no longer useful. And the strange thing is, once you remove the ones who drain your energy, your strength returns, your focus sharpens. You stop wasting emotional currency on people who see you as a tool instead of a teammate. Remember this. True friends don't need reasons to be there. They don't require opportunities to show up. They stand beside you in silence and chaos alike. And when life tests your resilience, they don't walk away, they hold steady. Anyone who only enters your life through the door of convenience doesn't deserve a seat at your table. Let them go. Don't mourn the absence of those who were never really there to begin with. Let your boundaries be a quiet declaration of self-respect. Let their absence be the space where peace returns. And let your energy be reserved for those who honor it, not those who exploit it. Stoicism reminds us that virtue lies not in how others treat us, but in how we respond. Let your response to users and opportunists be simple. You move on. You grow. And you no longer accept half-hearted presents from people who vanish when your heart needs full attention. Because once you stop entertaining the ones who only appear when there's something to gain, you make room for something far greater. The people who show up when there's nothing to offer, only everything to share. 4. They make you feel stupid. There's a unique kind of cruelty that doesn't come from shouting, insults, or public humiliation. It comes in the form of a smirk, a sarcastic comment, or a question asked just sharply enough to make you flinch. It's subtle, but deeply effective. And the most dangerous part? It often comes wrapped in concern. Malicious people don't always attack you directly. Sometimes, they chip away at your confidence piece by piece, until you're standing in front of the mirror wondering when you stopped trusting your own voice. It starts when you open up to them, maybe about a mistake, a setback, a personal struggle. You're not looking for pity. You're just hoping to be heard. But instead of empathy, what you receive is thinly veiled ridicule. How did you not see that coming? That was obviously going to happen. Or worse, a sigh and a smile, followed by, "You always do this, don't you?" These aren't questions, they're daggers dressed as dialogue. And the damage they do isn't loud. It's lingering. Their goal isn't to help you grow. It's to make you shrink. To shrink your trust in yourself, your instincts, your reasoning. They want you to second-guess every decision. To feel like every misstep is a reflection of your worth. Because the more unsure you are, the easier you are to control. And that's what it's really about, power. Emotional dominance disguised as casual conversation. I once knew someone like this. A friend, or at least that's what I thought. Every time I shared a dream, he found a way to deflate it. Every time I shared a problem, he found a way to make it my fault. He never shouted. He never even raised his voice. But his words made me feel small. Like I should apologize for even thinking I had something valuable to say. I started filtering my thoughts before I spoke. Not because I wasn't sure of myself, but because I feared his reaction. That's when I realized I wasn't in a friendship. I was in a psychological chokehold. Stoic philosophy taught me to see through this dynamic. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That single line shattered the illusion I'd been living under. I wasn't weak. I was simply absorbing someone else's projections. Their insecurity dressed as superiority. Their fear of being insignificant translated into a need to diminish others. And I had let them, for far too long. But no more. I began reclaiming my thoughts. Every time I heard that internal voice say, "You should have known better," I asked myself, is this my voice, or theirs? That simple question changed everything. Because the truth is, no one can make you feel stupid unless they first convince you to surrender your self-respect. And that's exactly what manipulators aim to do. Not through truth, but through repetition. Through daily, quiet dismissals of your intelligence, your value, your insight. And here's the deeper truth: the smarter you are, the more subtle their attacks become. Because they know they can't outthink you. So they try to outfeel you. To make you doubt not what you know, but how you feel about what you know. That's where the battle takes place. Not in logic, but in confidence. And if you're not careful, you'll start shrinking to fit the version of you they've constructed. The one that's always just a little wrong. Always slightly off. Never quite enough. But you were never the problem. Their words were never about clarity, they were about control. They never wanted you to understand. They wanted you to hesitate. And hesitation is where they move in. Where they convince you that their opinions should override your reality. Stoicism doesn't ask you to be emotionless. It asks you to be sovereign over your emotions. To feel without becoming enslaved by what others feel about you. To observe without absorbing. To recognize manipulation not as truth, but as noise. And when you master that, you become untouchable. Not because you can't be hurt, but because you no longer hand over the blade. You deserve relationships that elevate your thinking, not ones that weaponize your vulnerability. You deserve to be heard without being judged, to be seen without being diminished. And most of all, you deserve to feel safe in your own mind. If someone makes you feel unintelligent every time you speak, that's not friendship, that's erasure. And you are worth far more than silence and self-doubt. Let their comments pass like smoke. Let their tone fall flat. And remind yourself, over and over again, that the sharpest minds are often the quietest, because they're too focused on building something real to waste energy tearing others down. Speak your truth with strength. Think deeply. Feel wisely. And walk away from anyone who tries to make you question your light. Because anyone who truly sees your brilliance would never try to dim it. 5. They create a new image to distract you. When someone with dark intentions is finally exposed, when the mask slips, the lies unravel, and you start to connect the dots, you might expect them to apologize, to take responsibility, to admit they were wrong. But they don't, because people like that aren't interested in truth, they're interested in control. And when the old version of them no longer works, they do something even more dangerous. They reinvent themselves, not to grow, not to become better, but to distract you long enough to stay in your life. They shift the spotlight away from their actions and onto your emotions. They don't say, "I'm sorry." Instead, they say, "Let me explain." And what follows isn't an explanation, it's a performance. A carefully curated story full of emotion, trauma, heartbreak, and just enough vulnerability to make you hesitate. They paint themselves as misunderstood, as victims of their past, as flawed humans who are simply trying their best. And if you're not grounded, you'll fall for it, not because you're weak, but because you're human. They rely on that humanity. They rely on your empathy, your kindness, your tendency to look for the good in others. And before you realize it, you're no longer focused on what they did. You're focused on how they feel. They've flipped the script. You're now the one comforting them, validating them, and questioning yourself. Maybe I was too harsh. Maybe I misunderstood. Maybe it's me. That spiral? That confusion? That's exactly what they want. Because as long as you're doubting your own instincts, you're not holding them accountable. As long as you're questioning your perception, they remain in control of the narrative. This is not remorse. It's strategy. It's not growth. It's manipulation wearing a softer mask. I once confronted someone I trusted deeply, someone who had lied, exploited, and played both sides. I expected defensiveness. I was ready for denial. But what I got instead was a heartbreaking monologue about childhood wounds, abandonment, and how they've always felt like the bad guy. For a moment, I softened. I told myself, maybe they didn't mean to. But days later, I noticed the patterns continued. The lies never stopped. The behavior didn't change. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a breakthrough. It was a detour, a way to hijack my clarity and make space for more chaos. Stoic philosophy teaches us to never let emotion override truth. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Evil people understand this more than anyone. If they can plant confusion in your thoughts, they can change how you see them and how you see yourself. Their stories might be real. Their pain might even be true. But that doesn't excuse the harm they cause. That doesn't erase the manipulation, the betrayal, or the deliberate choices they made. Understanding someone's past is one thing. Allowing it to blind you to their present actions is another. This is where you must remain clear. You must hold on to what you know you saw, felt, and experienced, because clarity is their enemy. A clear mind can't be controlled. A steady heart can't be hijacked. And once you stop explaining away the red flags, you begin to see the truth for what it is, not what they want you to believe. Don't get pulled into their drama, their reinvention, their emotional theater. Watch what they do, not what they say. Measure change by action, not storytelling. Because when someone truly wants to change, they don't narrate it, they live it. They don't tell you how much they've evolved, they show you. Quietly, consistently, and without needing applause. If they're trying harder to look innocent than to be accountable, that's your sign. If they spend more time crafting new identities than facing old truths, they're not changing, they're escaping, and they're using your forgiveness as their exit route. You are not cruel for protecting your peace. You are not heartless for standing firm in what you saw. You are not the villain for refusing to play the role they wrote for you. You are awake, and that clarity is your greatest defense. Let them change, for themselves, not for your approval. Let them grow, outside of your life, not inside the space they damaged. And above all, let your mind remain free of emotional fog. Because when the truth is clear, no story can rewrite it. Stay alert, stay grounded, and remember, someone who needs to create a new image is usually hiding from their old reflection. And no matter how beautiful the new mask is, it can never erase what your instincts already saw behind it. Let Stoic wisdom be your compass. Let your clarity be the light. And never trade truth for comfort, not even when it comes wrapped in tears. 6. They pretend not to know anything. When caught in the act, a truly dangerous person doesn't explode in rage or confess with regret. They shrink into innocence. Their eyes widen, their tone softens, their body language shifts into a performance of shock and confusion. They say things like, "Wait, what? I didn't even know you felt that way." Or, "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" They don't take responsibility. They take control of the narrative. And the most disturbing part? They do it so convincingly. You begin to question whether you're the one overreacting. This is a tactic as old as manipulation itself, playing dumb to avoid accountability. When their harmful behavior is exposed, they don't address it. Instead, they pretend it never happened. Or worse, they twist the moment around and make you feel like you're the one at fault. They shift the conversation from their betrayal to your delivery, from their deception to your sensitivity. Suddenly, you're not just dealing with what they did, you're apologizing for how you brought it up. I once confronted someone I thought I could trust. I came with facts, patterns, and patience, but instead of listening, they tilted their head and said, "I really don't understand what you're talking about." Not aggressively, not with anger, but with just enough bewilderment to make me hesitate. Just enough to plant doubt. And then came the emotional reversal. "I wish you would have talked to me sooner. I had no idea you felt this way." As if it was my lack of communication, not their repeated betrayal, that caused the harm. That moment taught me something Stoicism had long tried to whisper. Clarity is not just about seeing others. It's about remembering what you saw. Because when someone plays innocent after repeated offenses, they're not confused. They're calculated. They're using your empathy as a shield. They're betting on your desire to keep the peace. They know you're more likely to doubt yourself than hold firm in your truth. And that's the manipulation. They rewrite reality using your own compassion against you. These people don't just avoid consequences. They reverse them, and if you're not anchored, you'll fall into the trap of defending your pain, justifying your perspective, and begging for validation that should have been freely offered in the first place. You'll walk away from the conversation feeling guilty for speaking up, ashamed for noticing patterns, and confused about whether the problem was ever real to begin with. That's not healing. That's gaslighting with a gentle voice. But a Stoic does not bend to perception. A Stoic doesn't hand over their emotional truth to be rewritten by someone else's performance. As Epictetus once said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. When someone tries to manipulate your memory, your clarity, or your instincts, your greatest weapon is emotional stillness. Not silence, not submission, stillness. A quiet, unwavering presence that doesn't need to shout to be firm. You are allowed to trust what you experienced. You are allowed to believe your own discomfort. When something felt wrong, it's because it was. When someone made you feel dismissed, overlooked, or manipulated, that wasn't just a passing emotion, it was a signal. And the moment they pretend not to know what they did, they're confirming what you suspected all along. They knew. They just hoped you didn't. When someone tries to cast themselves as innocent after creating harm, don't waste your time proving what they already know. Don't chase them with evidence. Don't beg them to admit it. Instead, observe. Watch how they scramble to flip the script. Watch how quickly they make your truth about them. And then, walk away with your clarity intact. Because clarity is what they fear most. Not confrontation, not exposure, but the calm, unshakable power of someone who sees through them, and no longer needs their permission to believe it. This kind of manipulation is quiet, but devastating. It erodes your confidence in small doses. It convinces you to abandon your instincts in favor of peace. But Stoic peace is not about avoiding conflict. It's about refusing to betray yourself. It's about standing in what you know to be true, even when others deny it with a smile. Let this be your reminder. Emotional manipulation often hides beneath politeness. It speaks in soft tones and shrugs of confusion, but its intention is sharp, to make you doubt your own eyes, your own voice, your own memories. Don't let anyone take that from you. Not with tears, not with stories, not with fake innocence. If they cared about your pain, they wouldn't pretend it didn't exist. If they respected you, they wouldn't rewrite the past to make you feel foolish. If they were truly innocent, they'd meet your concern with openness, not deflection. Stay grounded, stay awake, and most of all, stay loyal to your truth. Because when someone pretends not to know what they've done, what they're really saying is this: they knew you were strong enough to see it, and now they're afraid you'll be strong enough to walk away. And that is exactly what you should do. With grace, with wisdom, and with a heart no longer available for manipulation. 7. They use subtle manipulation tactics. Some of the most dangerous people you'll ever meet don't raise their voice, don't make threats, and don't look like villains. In fact, they often wear the mask of concern, of love, of loyalty. They check in, offer advice, tell you they only want the best for you. But beneath the surface, their words are laced with seeds of doubt. Their actions are soaked in control. They aren't trying to help you grow. They're trying to keep you just uncertain enough to need them. This is manipulation in its most refined form. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It doesn't push, it guides you gently, almost lovingly, into a space where you begin to question your abilities, your independence, your worth. They never say outright that you're incapable. Instead, they offer helpful reminders of your past mistakes. They express gentle concern about your choices. They plant small suggestions that maybe you're not ready yet, not strong enough, not smart enough without them. I once listened to a woman share how her mother, under the guise of care, slowly eroded her self-trust. Every time she tried to start a new relationship, her mother would say, "I'm just worried, what if he hurts you?" Or, "You've always been too trusting." These words weren't screamed, they were delivered with a sigh, a hand on the shoulder, a soft voice that made it harder to detect the poison underneath. And it worked. This woman began to second-guess every decision. She stopped dating. She stopped dreaming. And worst of all, she stopped believing in herself, until one day, she realized she had stopped living. That's what subtle manipulators do. They don't chain you down. They convince you to chain yourself. And once you're emotionally dependent on them, they become your compass, your voice of reason, your safety net. But that safety comes at a cost, your freedom. You begin to feel like you can't function without their input, their validation, their approval. And that's not care. That's captivity disguised as closeness. Stoic philosophy teaches that true freedom is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. Not the absence of influence, but the ability to resist it. As Epictetus wrote, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Manipulators know this. That's why they don't try to chain your body, they chain your mind. Because once your thoughts revolve around their opinions, their doubts, their fears, you stop thinking for yourself. They will disguise this manipulation with compliments. They'll say, "I admire how much you rely on me." They'll frame control as closeness. And if you pull away, they'll guilt you. "I just care so much. Why are you shutting me out?" It's never about your well-being. It's about their need to remain essential in your life, even if it means slowly convincing you that you'd fall apart without them. But here's the truth they never want you to realize. You were whole before them. You had instincts, strength, and clarity before they clouded it. And you still do. It's just buried beneath layers of emotional conditioning. Behind carefully constructed conversations that made you question everything except their intentions. But once you see it, once you name it for what it is, you can begin to take your power back. You do that by paying attention, not just to what they say, but how it makes you feel. Do their words empower or shrink you? Do they leave you with confidence or confusion? Do you feel seen or scrutinized? The answers are always there. You just have to trust yourself enough to stop explaining away the discomfort. Let this be your reminder. Real support does not make you feel small. Real care doesn't require dependency. And real love does not disguise fear as protection. If someone only makes you feel strong when you're leaning on them, it's not strength they want for you, it's control they want over you. When you feel the pull of emotional manipulation, return to the Stoic truth. Your mind is yours. Your peace is yours. And the greatest act of self-liberation is to reclaim both. Cut the invisible cords of guilt, obligation, and fear. Let their false concern fall flat in the face of your clarity. And walk toward a version of yourself that is no longer afraid to stand alone, because that self is free. You are not ungrateful for needing space. You are not cold for setting boundaries. You are not selfish for reclaiming your autonomy. You are waking up. You are healing. You are becoming sovereign again. And that's the one thing a manipulator cannot tolerate. Someone who no longer needs their approval to breathe. Someone who has chosen to live by their own light, rather than under someone else's shadow. Let that be you. 8. They try to make you look like the villain. When all else fails. When the emotional manipulation no longer works. When the fake innocence doesn't land. When the tearful stories no longer sway your heart. There's one more weapon a truly malicious person will reach for. They will try to destroy your reputation. If they can't control your emotions, they'll attempt to control how the world sees you. And they won't do it with direct attacks. They'll do it in whispers. In conversations that start with, "I probably shouldn't say this. But," or, "I'm just worried about them." You know? This is one of the most insidious forms of psychological warfare. It's not about confronting you, it's about containing you. They reshape the narrative to cast you in the role of the irrational one, the dramatic one, the unstable one. They spread carefully selected pieces of truth, sliced and edited just enough to paint a distorted version of reality. And they do it so quietly, so gracefully, that when you find out, it's already too late. The room shifts when you enter. The eyes look differently. The energy is no longer neutral. Suddenly, you're not sure who believes in you anymore, and worse, you start questioning whether you should believe in yourself. That's the true goal, not just to poison your relationships, but to poison your self-trust. Because if they can't make others turn against you, They'll settle for making you turn against yourself. They want you to withdraw, to shrink, to start thinking, maybe I am the problem. It's psychological exile, subtle, isolating, and deeply destabilizing. I've watched it happen to people I admire, individuals with strength, integrity, and clarity, who slowly lost their footing because someone behind the scenes was rewriting the script. And when they tried to defend themselves, they were met with raised eyebrows and quiet suspicion. Why are you reacting so strongly? That doesn't sound like them. That's the trap. Because the moment you start fighting back, you look exactly like the unstable version they've been describing. But Stoic philosophy offers a radically different response. It teaches that reputation is never fully in your control, but your character always is. Epictetus said, "You only need to care about one thing, being who you truly are." Let them lie. Let them twist the story. Let them plant seeds in other people's minds. Because the truth doesn't need a defense. It needs consistency. The most powerful answer to slander is not a loud rebuttal, it's calm, steady alignment between your words and your actions. It's living in a way that contradicts their narrative without you ever having to say a word. While they're busy painting a false image, you're out there being the living proof that they're wrong. Not through arguments, but through presence. Not through revenge, but through resilience. And here's the thing. The people meant to be in your life will see. They may hear the rumors, but they'll feel the disconnect between the lie and the real you. Because energy doesn't lie. Your consistency, your patience, your peace, it speaks louder than gossip ever could. Let them play their quiet game. Let them try to manipulate the crowd. You don't need to run behind every rumor trying to fix your reflection in someone else's mirror. That mirror was cracked the moment they looked through it with envy, resentment, or insecurity. Your job is not to make them like you. It's to stay rooted in who you are. Regardless of who's watching, this is where your true power lives. Not in proving your innocence, but in refusing to betray your own values just to win back people who were willing to believe the worst without asking you. Not in lowering yourself to their level, but in standing tall while they crawl through shadows trying to tarnish your name. Let their lies rot in silence. Let your truth bloom in time. The world always circles back to authenticity, even if it takes longer than you'd like. And when it does, the ones who doubted you will remember not just what was said, but how you carried yourself through it all. That's Stoicism in action. Calm under pressure, strength without performance, character over reputation. When someone tries to make you the villain, stay so true to your integrity that their stories collapse under the weight of your consistency. Not because you fought harder, but because you stood firmer. Conclusion: the strongest shield is within you. You've just uncovered 8 of the most disturbing behaviors toxic individuals use when they know you've seen through them. These aren't random acts. They are calculated tactics, designed to confuse you, shake your confidence, isolate you, and pull you back under their control. But here's the truth. The moment you recognized these patterns, the spell began to break. Awareness is your armor, clarity is your sword, and Stoic wisdom is your compass. You don't need to fight every battle with anger or noise. You don't need to prove yourself to those who choose manipulation over honesty. Your greatest power lies in how you respond, with calm, with boundaries, with unwavering self-respect. Let them talk, let them twist, let them disappear and reappear on their own timeline. Your job isn't to expose them, It's to remain rooted in who you are. Because when you stop reacting, you start rising, and the higher you rise in truth, the harder it becomes for their games to reach you. Don't let anyone rewrite your reality. Don't let their fear of your strength make you shrink. You've seen the mask fall. Now, walk forward with your head high and your peace intact. Because the strongest shield is not revenge. It's self-mastery. If this message spoke to something deep within you, like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to the channel for more timeless wisdom that strengthens your mind and protects your peace. This isn't just information, it's transformation. And it starts with you. Stay wise, stay strong, and always stay true.